this meeting. So thank you again, everyone, for attending our the Minority Freedom Community Fund's COVID-19 Special Task Force. A little bit about the Minority Freedom Community Fund. We are a newly established nonprofit located in or headquartered in Michigan, but with a national orientation. So our goal is to assist minorities across the country. We established back in December and started this task force back in March with the goal of trying to mitigate some of the assumed and imminent disproportion of devastation that COVID-19 would have on minority communities. And as we've seen from much of the research that's been conducted, we see that that is the case. And so the goal of this task force is to help try to circumvent and curtail some of that devastation on our communities. So we're really here to inform, not only providing information in the form of, what's going on with legislation, what's going on with the disease itself, how to stay healthy, but also where are financial resources and other physical resources for people in the community who are in need. We're also here to advocate. So to the extent that we can by the law, our goal is to really to speak on behalf of the community and bring your concerns and the things that are you're witnessing in your communities to the forefront for our legislators. And we're also here, lastly, to be a source of reliable, trustworthy news. We know that there is a lot of misinformation campaigns going on and a lot of confusing things as well. So not even intentionally malicious, but just some confusion in some of the laws and the progress of the disease. So we're here not to offer our opinions, because we all have them, but more so to just state the facts, demystify, and to correct any misinformation. I am Taquan Brookins. For those that don't know, I am the founder and chief operating officer of the Minority Freedom Community Fund. I have on the call today a few of our board members. So I would like to invite our board members one by one, if you could unmute yourselves and then just give an introduction to the people.
Hi. I am Nakia, and I am the president of the Minority Freedom Community Fund. I just want to say hello and welcome to everyone to the call today. Special hello to all of our first-time callers. We appreciate everyone's time, especially during this time, and just welcome you, and we appreciate you being a part of the call and interacting and speaking and just joining us today. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erica, and I am the Vice President of the Minority Freedom Community Fund. I'm super excited to be on the call tonight, and I also would like to thank everyone who's taking the time to attend the call. And I just really look forward to us all being able to work together and contribute to those in need during this time. So thank you again.
Hey, everyone. My name is Nicholas Waller. I'm on the board. I'm also a member of the fundraising committee. Local entrepreneur. Want to thank everyone for participating today and trying to give some input to fight this ongoing pandemic. Hopefully we can kind of come up with some great solutions and figure this troublesome time out. Thanks.
Hi, this is Dan.
Dan.
Minority Freedom Community Fund. I am an educator for the city of Detroit, and I have been for almost 10 years, but this is a new role for me. So
join the meeting.
I look forward to hearing all of the ideas that once this time is over with. And thank you all for your time tonight.
Hello, my name is Tarsha Gale. I am a newly elected board member.
I am also a social services administrator, and I'm just excited to be a part of this and looking forward to learning more and figuring out how I can definitely improve and help my minority community.
Hi, this is Jakima Brookins. I am a member of the board. I am the treasurer for the fund. I'm also the finance chair. I'm also Taquan's mom. I live in Virginia, but of course, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. So still have a lot of affiliations and love for the city. Breaks my heart to see what they're going through. I probably watched the news about what's happening in Michigan and in Detroit specifically more than I do where I live. So just really hoping that we can help those who really need help and to hopefully get through this as best we can and definitely pull together as a community.
Okay, I think our vice chairman is on the call. I think that's our last board member.
Good evening. My name is Richard Keith Brookins Jr., Vice Chair and Taquanya's dad from the great state of Michigan, city of Detroit. It is hot. It is hard, very ironic how we are going through a pandemic. Just from a personal standpoint, I've had my own issues dealing with the COVID virus here itself, and it is sickening and maddening. But I'm going to remain prayerful for our fellow men and women out there on the front lines, that they continue to fight through and endure through the process. And I am so glad to be on this board so that I can serve as a member to help to continue to bridge the gaps for minorities and for those who really need our help. God bless you all, and I'm very grateful to have each and every one of you here to help us through this process. Thank you all.
Thank you for those introductions and those words. I see that we also have two of our two youth advisory committee members on the call. If you would like to introduce yourselves to everyone, you can do so now. If not, I will move on to getting into the meat of the discussion. Please be sure to unmute yourself if you do want to talk.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Thomas. I am on the Youth Advisory Board, and I look forward to working with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Catalina Macedo Young, and I'm also on the Youth Advisory Board. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, thank you. So just to give a quick overview of the structure of tonight's call, I wanted to first begin by being very frank and talking about ways that we can stay healthy, both physically and mentally during this time, sharing some tips and some information about what to do if you are, if you do suspect you're sick or are exhibiting symptoms. Every piece of information that we share on this call, the intent is that everyone listening will then go and share it among their community. So keep that in mind as you listen to things, even if it doesn't apply to you, make sure you take it and tell a person or 2 or 10 so that the information can really reach as many people as possible. So the first portion of our call and future calls going forward will be just to talk about staying healthy. And then we'll move into progress reports. So I'll start off by giving some updates on some things that I've worked on and things that I've seen as far as legislation, both past and upcoming. And then I'll invite some of our board members and task force members to talk about any initiatives or progress that they have made on the tasks that they signed up for at the beginning of this. We've been doing this since March, I think 18th or roundabouts. So it's been about a month that we've been having these calls, and since we've started this task force, and our very first call, we decided, or we sort of develop some specific tasks. So we'll give people an opportunity to give their progress reports on that. And then I tried to leave the bulk of the meeting to just be a Q&A session. So anyone that's on the call, whether you're part of the task force and you've seen something you have a question about, or you're not part of the task force and you're just from the community or representing your organization and you have questions or things that you want us to put on the forefront of our minds as we do talk to people in the community organizers, legislators, etc. And as we shape and form our programs and our outreach, we're very, very open and receptive. Again, in the name Community Fund, we are here to be a source for the community to get information and to share information. So with that, I'll hop right into the first item. Just talking about what things to do to stay healthy. So during this time, it's very important that you be mindful of not only your physical health, but just also your mental health. So physically, there are some things that we can do to strengthen our bodies and our immune systems to make sure that we're healthy and we're able to combat any foreign invasions of a disease, for example. And so right now, I preface this by saying I am not a doctor, so please do consult your normal primary care physician or a doctor, but these are just some general things that I practice and that I know and have researched as helpful. The way that the virus works based on information that's been out is that it does cause a lot of mucus production in your lungs. And so really focusing on foods that can reduce inflammation, reduce mucus production. So peppers, green peppers, yellow peppers, red peppers, those are very, very good at reducing inflammation. You want to make sure you're eating a lot of green leafy vegetables and then boosting up on things with lots of vitamin C. So of course, everyone knows oranges have lots of vitamin C. If you don't have access to oranges or are worried about shelf life, you might get some vitamin C supplements, for example. You want to avoid things that do cause inflammation. So soy and gluten are two inflammatory food ingredients. So if you can, try to avoid those. Again, I know pickings are slim when it comes to grocery shopping right now, so don't starve, but as often as you can, try to do that. And then as far as mucus production, avoid dairy by all means. Even, and this is just me speaking from a standpoint of a person that does avoid dairy, even when there isn't a global health pandemic going on. Any form of dairy causes or triggers mucus production in your system. And so especially right now, even if you do love milk or however, just try to be nice to your body. Use dairy alternatives. So find a dairy alternative milk, almond milk if you're not allergic, or rice milk, oat milk. There's tons of different cashew milk. There's tons of different types of milk. There's tons of plant-based butters, obviously being conscious about any allergies you may have to avoid those. Also, dairy alternatives have longer shelf life. Even though I said that I'm not looking at the comments, there are some other things like ginger and turmeric and lime that are also great for preventing inflammation. Thank you, Dana, for reminding me to say that. But just if you have time or if you're interested, I would encourage you to do some research, Google whole food, plant-based diets. And not to say that you need to convert your whole life, but just during this time at least, trying to be as gentle and as nice to your body as possible. And so those are recommendations for foods. Again, if you have any that you would like to share, please put them in the chat for other people as I talk. When it comes to thinking of your holistic wellness, which is one of the mission statements of the Minority Freedom Community Fund, we also want to make sure that you're maintaining mental stimulation. A lot of people are off from work right now or out of school. And so we want to make sure that you're still maintaining mental stimulation outside of social media. So take advantage of some free courses, learn a new skill, even read some books, physical books, or if you have them on a Kindle or something like that. Just try to keep your brain mentally stimulated and preferably off of a topic that maybe even doing something that teaches you how to indulge in the whole food plant-based diet, for example. Just something that will keep your mind off of what's going on for a minute and also be additive to your life. From a more spiritual or holistic standpoint, we want to make sure that you're taking time to meditate, to pray, if that's your preference. Just some quiet time away from social media, away from the news, away from people in your house, if that's a possibility for you. Just to sort of detach and give your brain and your soul and your spirit a moment to heal. Also, volunteer, give back. So a lot of people on the call are volunteering with the Minority Freedom Community Fund. That's a great, thank you. We're also always accepting volunteers, but that's a great way for you to to give back during this time and to find purpose if you are off of work, for example. Also encourage you, if possible, to participate in any telehealth or employee assistance plan that your health insurance provider offers. If you don't know if your insurance plan offers that, reach out to your HR person at your job or even call your insurance provider. And if you don't have insurance or you don't have access to telehealth, there are virtual therapists that will see you and meet with you virtually for free. There's a whole network that we've talked about, but if you have questions about that, please bring that up in the Q&A portion and I'll share that information. Just remembering to practice mindfulness during this time and staying physically active outside of chores. I know a lot of times we'll say, oh, I'll clean out the garage or I'll clean out something in the house to stay active, but that can be mentally draining, at least for me, thinking of having to do another task. So try to do something that doesn't feel like a chore, but that still moves your body and gets you physically active. Lastly, if you are sick, I just want to reiterate the process that is being recommended right now to make sure that you are able to get care. The very first thing you want to do is to call your primary care physician. A lot of them are right now are doing telehealth, so you should be able to reach out to them that way, either on an app or a phone call, and they'll prescribe a test for you. So you usually have to get a prescription to get the test for COVID-19. If you are insured, but you don't have a primary care physician, you can call your insurance company for a referral. And if you don't have insurance, you can locate a federally qualified health center near you or your city's health department. I know that the city of Detroit specifically offers free COVID testing for individuals without insurance and even transportation if they don't have transportation. So contact your health department. If you need assistance with any of this, please feel free to reach out to us at info@mifreedomcf.org. If someone could put that in the chat for us, that would be really helpful. Or you can call it or text us at 810-377-5165, and we'll be happy to assist you in locating that information for your state if you're not in Michigan. If you do suspect that you're sick, you have symptoms, just make sure you isolate yourself. Right now it's estimated that the virus is contagious for up to 2 weeks, 14 days. So if you start to feel sick, just try to isolate yourself. Try to, again, take care of yourself, remembering all of the things in regards to foods that you should be eating, drinking hot liquids, and that sort of thing. Avoid, there's a common, what I will say what I do know. I do know that Tylenol is being recommended as a treatment for any pain-related symptoms. So that's the preferred medicine of choice for COVID-related pain. And so I will encourage you to do that if you are experiencing any pain. And then we'll talk about a little bit, I know specifically as we think about the way that this virus is impacting our communities, we'll talk about in the Q&A portion of this meeting some ways to stay socially distant. When you are living in a crowded space, for example, you might not be able to stay home and be away from people because you live in close quarters and there's a lot of people in your house or whatever may have you. And then also we'll talk about some ways that we can care for family members who may have the virus or are suspected to have the virus. So I want to pause there before I transition into giving a progress report because I have some really exciting things to share with everyone. So I just want to pause there in case anyone has questions or would like to add on to anything that I've said. All right. So to give a quick update in regards to our efforts, to date, we have raised $1,715 specifically for our COVID relief efforts. In turn, we have granted $1,000 in emergency assistance to families in need as they await other forms of assistance, either from unemployment or the stimulus or whatever may have you. And so we're very, very thankful to be able to do that. We not only grant financial resources, but every single applicant that submits an emergency application to us, in addition to those dollars, we provide specific resources that will meet the needs that they express in their application. So if they say that they are having trouble, with food for their family, we give them a plethora of food distribution sites that they can access. If they say that they don't have transportation, we locate free transportation resources that are available. So we try to be as comprehensive as possible in those emails so that it's not just a transaction, but more of an information touch point so that we can build relationships with people in the community. So very thankful to do that. I say all that to say, at this time, we have decided to pause our financial grant making out of that fund just because we have had an overwhelming number of requests, as you can imagine. And so we want to continue to fundraise, continue to seek dollars to support that. Some of the applications, reading them are just heartbreaking. I mean, the devastation that families are facing, the law is, I would say the general theme is just people feeling lost and not knowing where to turn and not even knowing about all of the resources that the city and the state and the government are providing. And so very, very grateful to be able to provide that assistance, but we just see the level of need that exists. And so if you are able, we would really appreciate if you could assist us in our fundraising efforts for the COVID-19 relief support. So if you text COVID fund to 44321, it will lead you to a link to our Givelify page that will allow you to not only donate, which is fine, but more importantly, create your own version of that fundraising page so that you can distribute it to your networks. And you can also give, if you do make a donation, you can give in honor of a loved one or someone that you know. So just wanted to give that information.
Can you repeat that, what you text?
Yes, so you text COVID fund, COVID FUND, to 44321. And if someone could type that in the chat box, that would
Thank
be.
you.
You're welcome. In other news, so this past week, we joined a collaborative effort. So a couple of people, sorry to derail, but both people that just chatted me, just make sure that you change it to everyone instead of me privately so that everyone can see it. And thank you so much for your participation. So this past week, I was in communications actually on Saturday with an individual who was trying to build a collaborative effort or working group to address the digital divide. So in some of our earlier task force calls, we talked about the fact that a lot of communities like Detroit and DPS in particular have students and people that don't have access to internet. And so this is a collaborative effort with a wide variety of organizations and people from different interest groups that are working together to address that. And so the name of the effort is called the Coalition to Bridge Michigan's Digital Divide. We, as of last night, became a founding member of that coalition. I may next week or the week after have the organizer come join the meeting just to talk about it a little bit. But the primary goal is of the coalition is to connect every Michigan household with reliable and affordable or free, where necessary, access to broadband internet by 2023. And so we're in collaboration with organizations like Oakland University, Wayne State, Eastside Community Network, Detroit Future City, Southeast Michigan Community Alliance, tons of organizations, really great organizations that are working together towards this initiative as we think about the fact that internet is being championed as a source for not only education for students, but also as a touch point to get access to government benefits, to get access to healthcare with the telehealth, to get access to employment opportunities. And so it really is a utility at this point. It is not optional. And we're really, the goal of the coalition is to advocate for that and to highlight and underscore the gaps and the needs that exist in urban and rural communities. And so really, really, really excited about that. If anyone would like to join, I think Nakia has joined some of those calls with me just to hear about the progress. We do have a one pager that sort of describes our goals and our the things that we care about and what we're trying to achieve. So I'm happy to share that with anyone who's interested, but just excited to announce that. And if there are any questions about that, you can ask now or maybe later on in the Q&A section. The next item in this will be my last section, and then we can hop right into some of the other progress updates from other people on the task force. So this section really talks about some of the legislation that's passed, and I try to use these calls to sort of demystify and explain some of the realities of what the legislation means. And so right now, each state is really taking action in their own ways to try to address the disparities and the needs of the communities. For example, Illinois yesterday just suspended all consumer debt, well, not all consumer debt, but most consumer debt collection and efforts. And locally in the state of Michigan, we've seen our governor make tons of different executive orders to address really how individuals are being impacted by this disease. And so I encourage you all to get involved, stay informed. One thing that you can do for whatever state that you're in is to go to your governor's website and look at the executive orders that they have signed or passed and read them for yourself rather than trying to wait for the news to compile the information and put their own spin on it. Go to the source and read for yourself so you can stay informed. I just wanted to briefly touch on a couple of things. So one, the stimulus check. So this week, and probably even last week, but mostly this week, the IRS started to issue the stimulus checks to eligible people. I want to clarify a couple of things. The stimulus check is not for people that file tax returns. It is not just for people that file tax returns or have jobs. The stimulus checks are for anyone with a Social Security number who does not owe back child support and is not a dependent on someone else's return. The money is not income. I know there's a lot of confusion around that. It will not be taxed as income. They will be looking at your most recently filed tax return, either 2018 or 2019, to figure out what level of or what amount of refund that you qualify for. But if there are any discrepancies, so for example, if you haven't yet filed 2019 and your income has significantly changed since 2018, when you do your taxes next year, there will be some reconciliation to make sure that if you were owed a larger refund, that you get that. But if you were given a larger refund or a larger stimulus check than you deserved, you will not have to pay it back. So I just wanted to clear that up. The IRS has established a website for people who do not file taxes. So if you don't have income and you just need to get your information to the IRS, you can go to irs.gov/coronavirus and fill out some information. You can also track your refunds status. I will say that for people that usually file their tax returns and request for paper checks, if you do go the paper check route, it will take longer for you to receive your stimulus check. And stimulus checks will be being sent all the way through September. The way that the IRS is tearing that up is they base it on need. So we're trying to get the money to people with low income quickly, and then trickling down to people with higher income all the way up until that cap is reached. Again, I can answer more specific questions about that during the Q&A, but I just wanted to mention that. I know in prior meetings we talked about the Paycheck Protection Program. This is a program for small businesses, churches, organizations, nonprofits like ours, if we had payroll, to make sure that they can meet their payroll needs. It was a very talked about program. However, it is expected that funds will run out as early as tomorrow for that program, just because of the high demand. And so for nonprofits in Southeast Michigan, there is a new program or a portal that you can use to help ensure that you can apply for that. So the Community Reinvestment Fund portal, that is a collaborative effort by Kresge Foundation and Goldman Sachs and a few others. They came up with a portal to allow nonprofits in Southeast Michigan specifically to be able to apply because they were experiencing a lot of difficulty trying to apply because of the high demand and banks not accepting their requests, et cetera. So again, we can talk about that in the Q&A. The other piece of grant making or funding that was provided for small businesses and businesses, the EIDL loan. Originally, they were saying that the maximum amount for that loan would be $2 million. It's been capped at $15,000. Again, more of this detail can be discussed in the Q&A portion of this meeting. I will note that they are working on a fourth round of coronavirus relief to address some of these gaps that we're talking about. We talked about some of the student loan relief gaps that exist, some of the unemployment insurance gaps that still exist. So they are working on round 4 of relief, which is expected to come out sometime this month if it's able to pass. Last 2 things. Locally, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, in a collaborative effort with some other organizations, are now delivering food to seniors. It's a great opportunity that you can support and that we might entertain supporting. They're seeking donations. They've already prepared 10,000 meals, but it's for the entire state of Michigan. So you can imagine there are more than 10,000 seniors, and even if there weren't they need to eat more than one week or 1 month. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, we can talk about that in the Q&A. Lastly, I was on a teleconference with Senator Debbie Stabenow earlier today. And one of the things that stood out the most to me was the fact that although there are gaps in sort of the supply chain right now, there are a lot of opportunities for potentially small businesses, people looking to start a business, to develop a business that can meet those supply chain needs. And so there are a host of great grant funds and resources available for businesses right now outside of the two that I've talked about before. If anyone is interested in those, again, we can talk about it in the Q&A. You can share it via email. We are working on that list of resources. So I'll with our volunteers, we're hoping to get that out and on our website and available for people to look at within the next week or so. But I just wanted to put that on your radar that even though things do look a bit devastating right now, there are opportunities and there are things that we can do to better position ourselves and our communities financially during this time. I'm going to pause there to invite anyone that's on the call that's part of the task force. If you have any updates that you would like to share or repeat, or any questions, please unmute yourself and do that now.
This is Dana. I just wanted to add that the state of Michigan recently approved a program that would provide families of students who already qualify for free and reduced lunch or attend a school that qualifies for free and reduced lunch to give them food benefits through June on a bridge card. So those families don't need to apply. They just send it to them in the name of the students. And then if you already receive benefits, I think it's just a positive to your current card.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other updates from folks on the call?
Hi, this is Kayla. I just wanted to update you on my scholarship list. I have been creating lists of scholarships open for students during this time, and lots of them have extended deadlines due to the coronavirus pandemic. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Thank you, Kayla. Are there any other people on the call that have updates or questions before we get into our official Q&A section?
I had a couple of comments. This is Yakima. So I sent you at least one screen print of something I thought that was interesting. And then I found something else for Michigan specifically. But starting tomorrow, through one of my friends on Facebook, I saw this posting for Brittany Rose Shelton. We have a couple friends in common apparently. And she is doing a session for mental health. So it starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow and it's every week. And it's called Christ in Counseling. She's a minister. She's young. She has, let's want to think about 5 weeks of different topics, including like anxiety, grief, relationships, self-care, quarantine, and children. So we have been talking about some different things we can do for mental health. And you brought it up as part of, something that we try to provide that information to others and, how we ourselves can make sure that we maximize our mental health while being quarantined. So if anyone is interested in just getting her Facebook information, let me know. If you are friends with me on Facebook, you can probably see it on my links because I kind of tag client. The other one is that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services on Monday started a warm line. and it is specifically for their residents to talk about and help them with similar things. So mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and it's for people who aren't suicidal, but just because of what they're going through right now might have some of those underlying causes of anxiety or depression might be exacerbated a little bit right now. So they started that, and that number and those times I will add to our resource sheet. But if anyone wants it before we get the resource sheet, please let me know. I can put it in our chat box so that at least you have that number if you want to refer someone to that. And it's free.
Thank you. I know you weren't the only person that's tagged me in things. So if there are people on the call that have tagged me in things on Facebook that you want to mention or talk about, can unmute yourself and do that.
I just wanted to give an update. I spoke last week in regards to the efforts that I had begun with trying to secure reusable face masks for the Department of Health and Human Services, the social workers, those who are still out in the community, in the field, specifically those child protective services workers that are still responding to calls in the community. So just to give an update, as of this week, I was able to raise funds close to about $400 to purchase the things that we needed to make those reusable masks. And in communicating with the individuals from the department, I have a list of about 60 of those field workers who are very grateful for this and trying to get masks, because right now they're working with a limited amount, and they are being told to either reuse the ones that they have, which are not reusable, or they are just kind of out on their own. So I'm trying to continue to coordinate the efforts to get those masks sent out to them as soon as possible. So that's the phase where I'm in right now. I still have a couple of offices that I'm collecting numbers from, but right now I'm at about 60 individuals. So as soon as I can get those together and get those sent out to them, I will start to do that. The other part of what I was trying to do was collect funds also for nurses or medical professionals and their families, to be able to provide them with meals, their families specifically, as they go into quarantine when they are finishing their shift. So I'm glad to say that this week I've connected with a nurse who has a family of 8, and I will be getting her a dinner on Friday. I've coordinated with a restaurant in Detroit, and they're able to make the food, and we're gonna be able to provide that to them this week. So things are just coming along, and just continuing to work on that and help some people that definitely are helping our community for sure, and specifically the Detroit area.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Thank you for that update. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to share or update us on?
Hi, it's India. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I've been talking, but I've been muted, unfortunately.
I've been there.
So hi everyone, I'm India. I'm one of the volunteers for the organization. And I found a website called WeBuyBlack.com.
Oh, yes.
And it's a marketplace for Black entrepreneurs to be able to promote their goods. And one of the things that I found that unfortunately it's going to end today, but they've teamed up with Shea Moisture, which is another Black-owned company that deals with hair care products. They have created a relief fund for Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs that are helping the community as far as giving out free services or free goods. The relief fund is in the amount of $100,000, and 20 businesses will be able to receive portions of that money. Unfortunately, the application deadline is today. It ends at 11:59 today. If you go on their website, which is webuyBlack.com, and you go to the top right-hand corner where the 3 bars are, you'll click that, and you'll find the blog section. And in the blog section, it'll have the category for the $100,000 relief fund. That's where you'll be able to learn more about the eligibility and the requirements to be able to apply for the money there. Also, take a look at the site itself. It has a lot of great information on there, and please pass it along to your friends and family.
Absolutely. Thank you for that information. Are there any other? Go ahead.
There was one more thing. There is a series happening on the Michigan Student Aid Facebook page for those that are trying to find scholarships. They're teaching you about what the government is offering, and they're on the second, this week was the second episode. So every Wednesday for the next, because it's already been 2 weeks, so it'll be another 4 weeks. Every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, they will do like a live chat on their Facebook page. But if you happen to miss that, they'll upload the recordings of what they were discussing about the different programs of scholarships and grants for college.
All righty, thank you. Does anyone else have any information that they would like to share? Okay.
So, Taquan?
Yes, hi.
Hi. I wasn't sure who that question was for, if that was for your board or the specific volunteers.
So we're about to switch over into the Q&A portion right now. So if you didn't have anything in relation to something that we've already talked about and you wanted to share information more generally, you can do that now. What I will say, and you can be our first sort of speaker for that piece, but what I will say is that as we frame this portion, so we're switching over to the Q&A portion of this call. As you think about the questions and the responses that you give, I would like everyone to frame their responses for this conversation around addressing the disparity and the hardship that COVID-19 is having on communities of color, African Americans across the country right now. So whether they're students, seniors, businesses, our churches, incarcerated individuals, whatever, what have you, if we could keep that in mind as we think about, what our next steps are, how best do we deploy our resources, both mental resources and financial resources, to address that need. And with that, I would like to turn it back over to Ms. Nina.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I am part of an organization called Women's Life, and one of the primary missions of that organization is to provide secure financial future and life insurance and annuity products, but we're also very involved with the community where we provide support and outreach endeavors. So one of the items that I was talking to Taquan about yesterday is related to a volunteer service grant that I'm able to, possibly able to obtain for $250. And I wanted to support one of the endeavors that was talked about earlier. I think it was related to delivering food to the seniors. So I wanted to get some more information about that so that I could apply for this $250 grant, if that would be beneficial.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely pull that information up for you. If you give me like 1 second, or I'll try to put it, if I can find it quick enough, I'll put it in the chat box. But if not, I'll email it to you. But I'm pretty sure I can find it really quickly.
Okay, and one last comment about that. If you determine that there is some other endeavor that would benefit from, I know it's not a lot of money, but we want to be supportive during this time in the season. And so if you identify something that would better benefit, please let me know. But I know that there are a number of teams working on providing masks and gloves and things of that nature. So our organization really wanted to do something with the seniors if possible. But wherever the need is greatest, we can talk about that.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down. Okay, so opening the floor up for this Q&A portion of the meeting. I do want to generally just ask if there are any questions that people have, either things that we talked about today in prior meetings or things you might have seen in the news that you have questions about, or even just reactions to. I really want to open this up to everyone that's on the call. If you haven't spoken already, please feel free to use this time to just state your piece and ask any questions or make any observations that you have. By all means, don't feel pressured to do so, but just want to invite everyone to speak during this time. As you gather up the courage to ask your questions and to think about what you like to ask or say, I do have a couple of thought provokers or questions to pose that I'm hoping to get some feedback from you all. So my first question, keeping in mind the framing that I mentioned before Ms. Nina spoke, what are, as we think about the fact that not everyone can socially distance themselves from their household if they're sick, for example. What are some ways or some ideas that you have or that you can think of or imagine to help people who are in close quarters or are unable to work from home? So maybe they're essential workers or something. What are some tips or some advice that you, or some even projects or ideas that you have for people who need to socially distance themselves but can't because they're in close quarters? So that's one question you can think about. The other question that I have is, as we think about people being home and you even being home in your neighborhood, if there are ways that you can connect with your neighbors to inform them, to provide assistance while maintaining that social distance, ways to get them information that you're learning, especially if you may have older neighbors or if you live in an area that may be experiencing high levels of COVID infections. Obviously, always keeping your personal health at the forefront, but what are some ideas that you have, either leveraging technology or if you have a neighbor app or the Ring app, what are some ideas you have about connecting with your neighbors? Another question, so I have 4 of these, so that those are 2. Another question that I would like us to sort of think about on this call is, what are some maybe useful ideas as we all think about preparing to receive this stimulus money from the government? Obviously, if you have immediate needs, your lights are about to get shut off, which they shouldn't, by the way. And if that's the case, please let me know and I can connect you with someone at DTE to prevent that if you're in Michigan. But circling back, just thinking about ways to invest and to utilize our stimulus checks so that we can really improve our financial or economic outlooks as a community. So what are some ideas that you would share or have for someone who might be receiving a stimulus check that may not need it to necessarily keep their lights on or food on the table, what are some ways that they can utilize those dollars to improve their family's economic outlook or their communities? And then the last question that I would like to pose to people on the call to think about and to share your insight on is a big issue right now is misinformation, but another issue is spam. So a lot of people, because of misinformation, are falling victim to the scams of, people calling and saying they're from the IRS and they have to give them their bank account information over the phone in order to get their stimulus check, or email scams where they're saying it's urgent, you need to click this in order to get your stimulus check or in order to get your unemployment or whatever they have you, or we have free food or more money for you or something like that. Just thinking about how we can prevent and inform people to not fall victim to these. And if you personally, more specifically, if you personally have seen or fell victim to any of these scams, if you could talk about that, so that way we can put it on our radar systems and also in turn speak or communicate to the community about these. So any of those that you all feel inclined to respond to, I am opening the floor.
I'll go. Hi, this is Nakia. That was like a lot at one time, so hold on.
I can repeat it. I have it written down, so no worries.
So I want to talk, first I'll start with the scams. I just want to make sure that we all are communicating to our seniors who, being a banker, previous financial person, they are our most vulnerable group. And you see it happen all the time. But unfortunately, during a time where you would think that some of these things would be decreasing, it's actually increasing. So just contacting our seniors, our grandparents, neighbors, just making sure that they're not falling for any scams, because there are a lot that are going on. Phones are ringing. I've talked to a couple people where scammers are calling, they're sending checks through the mail, like fake stimulus checks where you have to pay taxes on them, or telling people that they owe money. Just make sure that we are constantly talking to them and making sure that they're not being scammed. Even myself, a couple weeks ago, I was laying in the bed, and at 1 a.m. in the morning, I got a call that someone was purchasing airline tickets on my credit card, which I'm not sure where they're going or
right
this particular pandemic, but it's happening. So with all of us, check your credit card balances, check your accounts, just to make sure that there are not transactions or things that are happening, because we're so focused on all of these other things, we don't notice that things are happening, because they still are, and they're on the rise, because people are looking for different ways, especially with the stimulus checks that are coming out. So just protect your money and just be cautious and share with those who might not be up on things that are going on. As far as socializing, just make sure, especially people with anxiety, I have a little bit of that myself, our children, we want this to be, and this is me personally, we don't want them to look back on this time and only remember it being a pandemic. Use this time to love on your kids, your family, and to socialize. Socialize not physically, but you can socialize virtually. I make a list and I try to reach out to a couple people every day via phone calls or computer. We use things like Zoom or FaceTime, or I found an app called, I think it's 27, where I'll have my kids on and they're listening to stories at the same time. They're doing Art Hub or they're chatting. I have something interactive other than just them looking at each other, because they need that. They need that interaction, and we need that interaction. So if it's just a list and you haven't spoken to someone in a long time, or we had a family day where we did Jeopardy virtually, and we were all on teams and we're just laughing and talking. But those things are important right now, so we just don't get bogged down in all of the negativity that's going on. You know, I was tired of getting calls of people being sick and dead. I needed some of those calls to just be positive calls, calls where we're having moments of laughing and sharing and memories. I took a little bit of a news break. I took a little bit of a social media break. I post every now and then, but I try to make sure that I'm posting positive things, because next year I don't want to be inundated with all of these Facebook memories of negativity every day during this entire time. So I encourage everyone to put a little bit of positive during this time, just so some of our memories are just not all horrible. The last thing was stimulus check. So I know when I come off, Yakima might come on and say something, but investing. So I was sitting and talking to my 11-year-old, Kayla, that's on the phone, and she was interested in investing. She's been asking me, can I give her money to, you know, go to the stock market? And I'm like, no. So finally we sat down and I'm like, well, why not? Let's educate ourselves. I want to know what you know. And her godmother, Yakima, actually had like a little workshop 101 with her and went through everything on how she should invest, how she should pick her stocks, what type of things and what it meant. And I just thought that was a good thing. So we are going to take a little bit and let her try it out, because why not? So if you have something, I think Yakima's quote is, it's on sale. It's like what did you call it? The Bath and Body Works 75% off sale. It's stock sale. Everything is on sale now. So some things that you would not be able to add to your portfolio or start your portfolio, it's a lot of things that are affordable right now, even if it's 1, 2, or 3 little things that you can get. So that's what we've been doing. It's a perfect time because it's like in our price range, low. So those are the 3 things that I just wanted to share.
So just thank you for sharing. To piggyback on 2 things you said. So one pertaining to kids. I know earlier I talked about telehealth and getting the virtual therapy for yourself, but also for your kids. So your kids are likely dependents on your healthcare already, so they're eligible to receive that telehealth. But any of the virtual therapists, some of them actually cater to children. Strongly encourage you to have them talk to someone, even if it's not you, to get some therapy and make sure they're mentally okay right now, because they're going through a tough time.
And there are a lot of free services too. I'm in Macomb, and in Macomb, if you are in any Macomb school district, you just call. There's a number, I can look for it. You call the number and there's 6 free virtual sessions for kids. They just have to tell them what school they attend, and they can get 6 virtual therapy sessions for anything that they're going through right now.
See? That's awesome. The second thing I wanted to piggyback on is if you're thinking about either you or your kids getting involved in the stock market and looking to do that in a pretty low risk and convenient way, there are a number of different platforms you can use, one being Robinhood. So I'm just sharing a link to Robinhood right now. You can join using that link. You can also use Cash App. Cash App now has investing. Another one is Ally. So although Ally has waived any sort of fees that they might charge for their investment platform. So those are just some ideas that you might look into. Also, as we think about, our stimulus check from that perspective. If it's really disposable income for you, you might even consider some other alternatives. So another resource that I personally use is an organization called, or a platform called Fundrise, that allows you to invest in real estate all over the country. And so, and another platform is Worthy Bonds. So the bonds actually support social organizations, social impact organizations. So it's a way to earn money and do good. So that platform is called Worthy Bonds, and the other platform is called Fundrise. So segueing back, are there any other people that have had a minute to think about some of the questions that I posed that would like to speak or to talk about those or give their input? I've also posted a few things in the chat box, a few links. So the link to the website to assist seniors, as well as some of the information I just talked about. If there are no other questions for this Q&A portion, I do want to wrap up with a couple things. First, I want to talk about a couple of ways that you or your organization might be able to assist the Minority Freedom Community Fund, just talking about some of our needs and being transparent. And then also end with a couple of reminders. So first, we are looking for volunteers. We do have amazing volunteers right now, but we are always looking for more manpower as we're all stretched pretty thin. And so if you're able, all of our volunteer opportunities are virtual. All we ask is that you be responsive and be committed. Most of them will require some sort of internet connection, a phone or a computer, access to email, that sort of thing. But if you don't have that as an option for you, we'll be happy to work with you. You can give us a call or have someone that you know that's interested in volunteering. Give us a call at 810-377-5165 if they don't have access to internet, and we can figure something out. But we're really ready to receive as much manpower as possible. Really looking for people who can be sort of the community advocate. So talking to the people in their community, finding out what's going on, what their needs are, what the realities are, especially people that have experienced or had symptoms of COVID and tried to get help, really figuring out if there are cases of discrimination going on or things of that nature. I've been on calls all week with some interest groups and heard some really devastating things about what's happening to people who are in the criminal justice system, who are identified as LGBTQ, that sort of thing. So really just trying to be the eyes and ears on the ground to know what we need to be advocating for and how we need to be positioning ourselves. So looking for people for that. Again, sharing our fundraiser. I talked a little bit about the fact that you could text COVID fund to 44321 to get the link to that page and create your own version that you can share with your networks. This will really help us be able to open our grant making efforts back up, because as I mentioned, as of yesterday, we paused that grant making just due to demand and our capacity. We're also, as an organization, we have a fundraising committee, and we are actively seeking members to join, or people from the community to join that committee. You don't have to be a board member to join any of our committees. We are currently looking for a fundraising committee chair. So if you're ready to be in a leadership role and have some fundraising experience, this might be a great opportunity for you. You can leave your email in the chat box or contact us via email later on to request the information or to let us know you're interested. We will be holding a volunteer orientation on April 25th at 5 p.m. virtually. So if you're able to get connected with us in time for that, we'd love to have you. And lastly, If there are people on the call that are from other states or people that you know from other states, like I said, we are a national organization. And while many of us are here in Michigan, I really want to make sure that we're not short-sighting people in other states. So some of our volunteers are in other states, Virginia, Illinois, Georgia. But just want to remind everyone that to keep that in mind, and make sure if you are in another state that you're really scanning the environment, finding out what's going on, because we have a strong enough presence in Michigan to know what's going on here. But if we could really just branch out and make sure that we're staying in tune with the needs of other states, that would be helpful. As far as reminders, just want to remind you that this call is every week at 8 p.m. using the same dial-in. Future meetings will probably start to become more thematic. I know we cover a lot in these meetings, but we're your community fund. So any topics, any initiatives that you want us to be thinking about, bring those ideas to this meeting, and we'll really roll up our sleeves. But thinking of having a few guest speakers at our future meetings. I already have a few lined up, so make sure that you do attend our future meetings. If you do come across a resource that you would like to share, please email that resource, whatever it is, and in whatever format you have it, to covid@mifreedomcf.org, if someone could put that in the group chat, or you can text us at 810-377-5165. I encourage you to stay informed during this time, participating in as many of these type of telecalls, or however you want to call them. The city of Detroit has one for each district every single night. NAACP has one that coincides with ours, so you can maybe choose to do ours one week and then choose to do theirs next week. Tonight, I think they had Ayanla Banzat, which was a little tough act to beat. So I appreciate you all for choosing me instead of Ayanla. But there are others, so make sure that you stay informed that way. And then last but not least, please, I know that snitching is not popular, but please, by all means, if you see someone violating any ordinance in your state in regards to social distancing, staying safe, staying home, you can report those violations to your local police department, your health department. You can even report them to your state's attorney general if it's a business that is doing that. Make sure again that you go to your governor's website and look at the executive orders that are there, so that you can stay informed and know the information for yourself. I also lastly want to encourage everyone to complete the census. You can complete the census by going to my2020census.gov. If you or someone you know doesn't have access to the internet, you can complete the census by calling 844-330-2020 and complete the census. That way it's very important that we do that. I think everyone on the call probably knows, but just to reiterate, those really dictate how federal funding gets distributed. And so if there is a lack of representation or number of people that are reported in an area, then that means that you get less dollars and you get less support and funding. And we know, as we see in times like now, funding is very crucial, especially from the federal government in times of need. So we want to make sure that we're counting accurately. Again, make sure that you're filling out the census for the address of where you spend your most of your time, and not just the address that's on your license if that's not where you spend the majority of your time, as far as where you reside and where you sleep. So not what your address says, but where you actually sleep. Are there any other closing comments that anyone has or would like to say?
Hi, Taquaya.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi. I just want to ask, do you have a list of the committees?
As far as for our organization?
Yes.
Yes, I have a list, but I can tell you and anyone else that is interested. We have a governance committee, We have a fundraising committee, a program committee. We have a youth advisory committee for our youth. So Kayla and Catalina are both on that committee and accepting new volunteers to that committee. Nakia, did I miss any committees? I think I touched them all. Program, fundraising, youth advisory, governance, finance.
That's all of them.
All righty.
All righty, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, ending comments? All righty, well, I would like to wrap up the call. Thank you all